Hey everyone, welcome to Trailblaze Your Path podcast. I'm very excited to be interviewing Olivia Stapleton. Welcome, Olivia.
Thank you for having me, Kaylee. I'm excited.
Yeah, and real quick, tell everyone who you're with and all that good stuff.
So, I am with Dealer Teamwork, and we are based in Minnesota, but are nationwide.
Awesome. Okay, and we're going to get into so many cool things because you are a voice and a speaker on just tying the generation and connecting everyone to the next generation. And I think that's a important thing to talk about because generations are different and we they need to understand all the different generations. So, uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, so real quick tell us too like what's your journey into auto and just how did you get here?
Yeah, I like to joke that I was born with a service manual in my hand because I've been around the automotive industry just for as long as I can remember. But it was really in my teenage years where I kind of had that aha moment, and I was like, this industry is pretty electric. I think I like it here. So I actually have a core memory when I was 12 years old. I was always that curious kid, and you being a mother yourself, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, which, by the way, parents deserve a medal for their patience. It's incredible. But I remember right there at the kitchen table, 12 years old, I vividly remember asking my Dad, how do I buy a car? And, this wasn't one of my other endless questions. Why is the sky blue? Why do I have to go to bed right now? So this was his bread and butter. He was pumped. And right there, he pulled up his chair and he walked me through the initial road to sale. Handshake, paperwork, negotiations, financing, all of the stuff they did in the olden days. And
And
so
you asked this when you were 12?
when I was 12 years old, couldn't even
What
drive.
what do you think like prompted you to like think about how do I buy a car? Do you think it's because your
I think it was
parents
just,
were like coaching you like
yeah.
you have to buy a car when you're 16 and like I mean how did that
I think it
start?
was just the exposure to growing up around my dad on the phone and hearing meetings and just being exposed to automotive. I didn't really know the inner workings, obviously, at 12 years old. I didn't even know what I wanted for dinner. But I just remember from that conversation thinking to myself, wow, this is more than just selling cars and moving metal. It's really about the human connection and understanding people and building those relationships. And so, yeah, after that, when I went to college at Nebraska, I double majored in business management and marketing because I knew that regardless of what industry I ended up in, whether that was automotive or not, I just wanted something that had that fast paced nature and kind of honed in on that human connection and mixed creativity and business strategy. And so that has ultimately led me to where I'm at today in marketing and sales enablement. So,
And I love your title and like what you're working on. Can we talk about that a little bit? Like what your focus like you're focused on and how you're supporting your guys' business and company growth because I feel like I hear that title but it's not a super common one, right? Like
yeah. Oh, 100%. And, I say that marketing and sales specifically, I will always say they're kind of two sides of the same coin. They're kind of happily married, if you will. And, for me, marketing has always been a natural fit. They say you're either a math and science person or a reading and writing person. And I was never destined to be a chemist. I think that would be a liability for everyone involved. But what I love most about just combining marketing and sales enablement is because it blends that creativity and that strategy. And you get to kind of, flex that creative muscle a little bit, but at the same time you're building something that drives a real impact, and that to me is so rewarding, and that's where the two kind of came together for me naturally.
yeah, it seems that way. And I know we talked a lot about this too before we've hit record and multiple conversations, just how much sales and marketing have evolved over the years and just it's almost like we shouldn't call it sales and marketing. It needs to be called one. I mean, each one serves a purpose, but I don't know, for a salesperson's perspective, building your brand and building those relationships have even more like been the focus, I think, in the last couple of years. I feel like it's always been there, but like it's this big thing now with so especially with social media. I think is my point of pointing it out is like it's no longer the days of like marketing bringing in leads and then like sales works them. I don't know.
Oh, 100%. And
But
I feel like to anyone who works in marketing or sales could attest for this. It's kind of finding that sweet spot between the creativity and the results, because I know we've talked about this before, but it's like a mix of art and science, because you've got to come up with those ideas from the marketing perspective that draws people in initially, but then you also need to make sure it kind of moves that needle from the sales perspective too, for engagement, leads, sales, whatever your goals are.
Mhm.
And so just finding that happy balance is the key there. And yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It doesn't really, it kind of just blends all together at this point.
It does. It does. I think also too for me, I always love having these conversations because I've been the one in the both, like we don't have really a marketing team and we don't really have a sales team. So
You
it's
are the marketing and
I
sales team, Haley.
yeah. So I'm like, am I crazy that I feel this way? Or like, I mean, there's so many things I would love to do, but like I'm doing like the most important things and then or just growing that way. But I guess my point was like it's just there's just so much to it. There's just so much to
There
support
is.
sales. There's telling the story, you're capturing, you're retaining. It's so many layers to it, but we could talk about
Totally.
that the whole time. But I wanted to get your perspective on just like the generation, what you're super passionate about, and just the fixed ops, like your perspective on that too. So actually, okay, back up. What do you all do at, at your company? Let's give us that whole thing because I like people to
Um,
figure out what they do.
yeah, so dealer teamwork, digital advertising, SEO, full suite. And I know you mentioned about the next generation and stuff like that. And I think that's where dealer teamwork really shines, actually, because just speaking from the perspective of someone in the demographic of Gen Z, today's younger buyers, we're not just looking for a car. We're looking for an experience that kind of goes beyond that transaction, you know? And so being digital natives, we're accustomed to that speed and convenience. And I think at Dealer Teamwork, we do a great job of just incorporating that into everything we do. And I think that ties back to, first and foremost, transparency. You hear it all the time. Might be a buzzword, might not, but everything needs to be transparent from pricing, stock, vehicle details. And that's huge nowadays, especially for my generation, because a lack of transparency can be the difference between a sale and a lost lead. And so at Dealer Teamwork, another big focus of ours is personalization as well. And I know you know this, but obviously starting with understanding what your consumer search intent is and not just knowing that they're looking for a new car, but understanding how they're searching and understanding what features matter most to them and what's going to motivate them from an advertising perspective to kind of move down on that buying process. And so, at Dealer Teamwork, our MPOP, our patented platform, automates that process to kind of ensure that everything that a customer would need prior to purchase is available down to the penny. So,
Okay. I have questions or I have insight or I don't know, but I have thoughts. So
throw them at me.
I think that this is so awesome because just it goes back to what we're talking about with marketing. There's so much technology and there's so many ways to identify just where people are at in their cycle, what they're thinking about. I know it's creepy, but it's kind of the way we are now. It's like when you go online, you want to see stuff you're interested in. You don't want to see stuff you're not interested in. There's nothing wrong with that. It's
Yeah.
technology. And it sounds like you guys have created a process or a technology to help dealerships not be like experts in all of those areas and just kind of automate and put what they need in their face. Did I get that?
100%.
Okay.
100%. And honestly, too, I like to kind of just break it down and think about dealer teamwork is like putting yourself in your consumer's shoes, right? If you're researching anything or going to buy something, making any purchase, you want to know what you're getting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you want to know how much you're going to have to spend, and you want to make sure there's no hidden fees or unclear terms and whatnot. And so I think that the biggest thing that we kind of solve for that is that we eliminate those questions right off the bat. Kind of, are there areas where your customer might feel misled or confused about pricing, inventory, or just the buying process in general? Or like, are your policies and financing terms, are they easy to understand,
Yeah.
down to the penny there? Because it's
That
confusing.
it's confusing.
And
And we talked
yeah,
about this too. It's like we forget in our auto little brains and world how much we know and understand, whereas like the normal standard doesn't know and think like us. We talked about that with like fixed ops. Like we take it granted for people. We know the regular maintenance and the things are what we need to do with our vehicle. Some people don't know that. Sorry, I cut
100.
you off, but like
No,
that's
no, no, no. You're totally fine because you're exactly right. And I mean, like you said, it's overwhelming, it's confusing. And for us who work in the industry, it might seem to be second nature. But I always, and I think I explained this to you before too, just breaking it down to my non auto friends, trying to explain, like, what do you do at Dealer Teamwork? And I'm like, okay, Kaylee, let's go shopping together for a minute. We're in the market for a car and we have our eyes on a brand new, sleek black Raptor. black Ford Raptor, right? And I'm using that example because it's one of my many dream cars. But you start your process online and you find an ad for the black Ford Raptor, and it's the exact model, all the features we're looking for at a price we can afford, right, Kaylee? So it's perfect. We are ready to drive that baby off the dealership lot.
Yeah.
But then we get to the dealership and then that dream falls apart and the salesperson tells us, hey, Olivia and Kaylee, we actually don't have that black Ford Raptor in stock, but we have a black F-150. What happened? Well, the ad made it seem like the black Raptor was available. The F-150 is not what we were looking for. It's not what we saw online, and it's not what drew me to your dealership. So now from a consumer standpoint, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, we're scratching our heads. Have we been misled? Because if you as a dealership can't even keep your inventory aligned with what you're advertising, what else is going to be inconsistent or unclear? And so from my perspective as Gen Z who loves to share our experiences online, there goes my trust, there goes your credibility as a dealer, and then from a Gen Z buyer, there goes your reputation as well. And so just kind of relating that back to dealer teamwork, we bridge that gap automatically because we keep everything up to date in real time so that doesn't happen, and you're able to avoid those missed opportunities per se if the consumer is confused.
Yeah, because going back to what we talked about, it's like we forget how we can confuse it because we're in it. And when you take a step back, you can really like simplify it and make it so
100%.
transparent so it's not, and just keeping your inventory up to date. I mean, that's the biggest thing, I think. And I think if you really think about it, it's so hard to do that too. Like,
Yeah, but it doesn't have to
it doesn't
be.
have to be.
And that's the thing.
The technology piece, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, what else did we want to talk about? I want to talk about what you're doing with content and just kind of,
Yeah.
because I think you're kind of doing a podcast or not calling it a podcast. I don't know.
Yeah.
Call it a podcast. I think you should.
Yeah, I can't call it a podcast because you said so. Yeah, no, Next Gear Automotive. I'm still trying to figure out the whole trajectory of it all long term. But it was kind of born out of two things that I love, which are talking and learning. Beyond that, I've always been a big advocate for others. And I truly believe that there's room for everyone at the table. Yeah, and that mindset's kind of shaped the vision for this podcast, if that's what you want to call it. Just ever since I entered into the industry and even before that, it just always struck me at how much untapped knowledge and just fresh thinking exists within my generation. I think people underestimate us a lot of the time because of our age. And, just whether it's my peers at Dealer Teamwork or connections that I've made just along the way, there's such an incredible wave of innovation happening, and there's a lot of potential to kind of disrupt the traditional way of thinking in this industry.
Yes.
And so, like I said, like I'm still trying to shape that long-term trajectory, but the whole goal for me was just to kind of build a community per se. And whether you're a seasoned automotive veteran or just a newbie who's curious about the industry, just coming together to share those ideas and kind of bridge that gap between tradition and innovation and create a space where those conversations can happen. Because I feel like at the end of the day, my generation is going to be the next wave of leaders and decision makers and change makers in this industry, and we're gonna redefine how we communicate, sell, and so forth. And so Next Gear Automotive, yeah, I was just kind of fueling that momentum, but giving a voice to the future while kind of honing in on the foundation that got us here.
Yeah, I really like that. You're on to something with that too. I think the name is perfect. And I think, it just hits all the points that we've completely changed the kind of the way that we're building communities and the way that we sell and connect. And it all started with, I think, COVID and like
Yes.
completely changed the way that we connect because pre-COVID, I think people hung out on LinkedIn and were kind of selling, but I don't know. Since then, I feel like it's completely changed the way I'm connecting. And then that leads into podcasts because podcasts have created this like hub where you can create your community. You can talk about the things that you're passionate about and really produce content around it's marketing. It is. It is. Yeah.
No, I
So,
totally agree with you. COVID changed a lot, and
it did.
I mean,
I hate that we're
even
still
just
talking about it.
and can you believe it's been 5 years? That's what baffles me.
Like
Where has the time gone?
I know. I've raised I have a kindergartner now. Like I had my baby, or I had her in 2019 in July, and then COVID happened for us, or we felt it in March of
2020.
2020. Yeah, that's like when
Yeah.
everything shut down. So like, yeah, it I don't like where did
Crazy.
the time go?
It's crazy.
But it was actually like, I mean, as horrible as that time was, it was actually a really positive thing because of how, for me, and now it's a little bit more acceptable to have your kids involved in Zooms and having meetings and working from home. Because I was working from home before I had my first child. And I don't know, I could go on about that. I don't, this is podcast about you, but like, it's just a crazy time. And it's totally going back to the podcasting. There's how many podcasts are there in the automotive space? I feel like I read something. It was like there is I think there's at least over 1,000. There's a lot.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm
Thousand.
sure.
Yeah.
If
And
not more.
I think every company should have a podcast.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it gives that kind of it humanizes your brand a little bit. And I think that's what people really crave now after COVID, especially being so isolated. And yeah, it's cool. It's personalized. It's just, you get to kind of see a different layer to brands and companies.
I like it. I just think it's hard sometimes for some companies when because you guys are fairly large with a lot of people within your organization. So it's like figuring out who's going to do it. Like, it takes someone like you that's like, hey, I have this like passion, this idea, and I want to do it. And then the company supports that. So
Yeah.
I think that's the right mindset to have. So, and then you'll figure out the rest later. Because I know you're not calling it a podcast, but it is.
You just start.
I'm just like start it and put it all in one place so you can like that's the way it starts.
Learn as you go.
Yeah. I do want to ask you, kind of going back to the marketing, how do you balance creative demands on marketing and results for sales, and just kind of going back to that conversation because I feel like it's a really big topic with any company, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think too, just going back to what I kind of mentioned before, how it's that mix of an art and a science and the creativity and the results. And for me, honestly, that balance kind of comes down to finding the why and keeping that why in mind. Why are we doing this campaign? Why would the audience care? Why should they? And how does it kind of connect to those results that we're looking for? Just kind of making sure that every creative idea that you have, not everyone, but has a purpose or ties to a reason that can deliver that measurable value, So as far as challenges go, because I know a lot of people looking at marketing and sales both have their own set of challenges, which I love a good challenge. But I think truth be told, marketing doesn't deliver instant results every single time, right? It's a lot of trial and error. And I'm not just talking about products or services. I'm just talking about organic marketing and campaigns, social posts, those kind of things. By nature, they really are trial and error, A/B testing. And so, like we said, marketing is married with sales. Who thrives on those immediate wins? So it's about finding that balance there. But, I feel like it's almost like a puzzle as well. And I keep throwing out a lot of different acronyms and comparisons and whatnot.
Yeah.
But really just bridging that gap between creative campaigns and hard sales metrics and numbers. And I mean, that requires constant adjustments and fine tuning and experimentation and patience. But that's honestly where the biggest opportunities lie. So.
Absolutely. I think you're spot on. It's about patience, trial and error for sure, and just understanding that it's not going to be instant with marketing. And I mean, going back to just what I think about, I want to understand is like, how do you balance, all the ideas and things? Because I know in my own brain, I have so many ideas and I have only one person. I'm like, how do I do all this? Like, how do you create that space to create and execute and understand what things you need to kind of like hold in this little side basket of, okay, we'll get to that later kind of thing?
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm the same way with migraines too, moving a million miles an hour. And, I think one of those challenges, like I mentioned, the biggest one probably is prioritization. Because when you're working on marketing and sales and just your own creative outlets and whatnot, there's always that excitement and momentum that you've got when you have a new idea. And it's easy to get pulled in so many different directions. But I think for me, because my boss actually, Anissa Collins, one of my biggest mentors, she told me one thing one time, and it was sometimes you need to slow down to speed up. And so that really has kind of given me a whole new perspective on changing my thought process from, okay, how can I get all these done and execute all these ideas, and turn it into what's going to make the biggest impact right now. And then I focus on that. Because, it's not really about doing everything, but it's about doing the right things and doing them well. And I think another thing too is embracing getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Because sometimes you don't have all the answers, or you don't have that missing piece that you need to move forward with a project or your own ideas. And so I think, obviously that's another layer of the challenge, but it's kind of exhilarating to kind of work through and piece things together, especially in this industry.
Yes, it is. Because I think that's one thing I really focus on is getting uncomfortable. Because it's easy to be comfortable. It's nice to be comfortable sometimes, but it's also it's more challenging and more fun when you can get uncomfortable. And I think also one thing I heard from what you were describing too is sometimes you don't have all the answers and you kind of have to just, I don't want to say just go for it, but you also you kind of have to test and just try things,
Absolutely.
and then you adjust, and it's okay, and it's not going to be perfect. So I love that. I want to find out what's your goals, like what do you see for the future of you and dealer teamwork and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, I think as far as my goals go, I've always been a big believer in, I know passion, people throw that word out all the time, but I've always been a firm believer that passion can really take you anywhere. So for me, I'm just going to keep following that. And, I've been extremely blessed to have just the best mentors and guides throughout my life and my career so far. And so my goal is to not only just hone in on that more and leverage that expertise and knowledge that they're giving me, but ultimately return that back in one way or another. And so I think throughout, speaking about like career aspirations, honestly, for me, happiness and health come first.
Yeah.
But I do think that my dream job would probably be to just be someone's personal hype woman and, just screaming in their ear, you can do it. You've got this 24/7.
I see that for you. Like you would be like a coach like in the future or something
Thanks,
like
Julie.
that.
You would be too. But no, like I'll jokes aside, I think just continuing to amplify the voices of my generation, because I truly think that we are going to lead so much change in this industry and just so much untapped potential to disrupt everything that we're currently working on. And I think in regards to dealer teamwork, at least, just automotive, it moves at lightning speed. And I think that we are so uniquely positioned as a company to just continue helping dealers navigate those changes and the shifts that are coming with the next generation. And so, just continuing to deliver on what today and tomorrow's buyers are looking for and continuing to kind of set that bar is what drives me and our team every day. So
I'm
future's
really
exciting.
I'm really excited too. I have a couple things I didn't touch on. One thing, I don't know, do you talk about this? The fact that do you directly work for your dad, or like how does that?
No,
Okay.
no, I don't directly work for him.
But
No.
I do want to understand like that dynamic, because I do think like when you're sharing your story, like your perspective and kind of how you grew up, you're almost like how the kids of dealers grow up, just being in the
Yeah.
business. And so I guess what I'm trying to find out is how's it been? How's it been like your dad's relationship, and just like as the years have progressed and all that? Is there any
I
fun things
think,
you can share?
yeah, no, I think a lot of people think that this is not a touchy topic, but for me, I love talking about it because my dad's my biggest inspiration. He's my biggest mentor. He's what got me interested in automotive initially. And it was my own decision to kind of follow in his footsteps down into the industry, but at least just seeing what he's been able to accomplish and seeing how his voice has made so much change and he's inspired other people is what really has inspired me. So no, I could not be more proud, and I will gladly shout that from the rooftops that it's been such an incredible experience, and one that regardless of where I end up in this industry, and I would love to, I'm gonna pave my own path, but
Yeah.
it's been so wonderful working with him. And it's honestly one of those full circle moments. He had come to Canada with me when I was speaking at the Western Canadian Dealer Summit, and I got a +1. And I thought it through. I was like, should I bring my boss? Should I bring someone else? And I asked him to come with just because I grew up watching him on stage and just seeing him talk to big crowds. And this was my big first time just speaking in front of a crowd of like 500 people. And, it was so, he's so proud of me and my siblings. And so it meant a lot for him to be there and for him to watch me do that in my own right.
I love that. I think that's so special. I hope that as my kids grow up, just exposing them to, because for me, exposing them what I do is a little bit harder than exposing them to what their dad does, where they can go to a dealership, they can see the parts department, and they can like see it, where I'm like on my computer, I'm on meetings, like, I have to like explain to my daughter, like, I sell to car dealerships, I talk to them, I help them. And then she's always funny, like, you sell to daddy? Like,
You saw the dad?
you sell to dad?
Even you, Kaylee, you are so kick-ass at your podcast stuff and just creating your own brand that I feel like when your daughter is my age or just grown up enough to the point where she kind of figures out what she wants to do, I feel like what you do now is going to be a million times bigger and content's never going to slow down.
No.
And so I think her just being around you, you're just awesome. And you're such a good role model for her. And she can do whatever she wants and she'll be amazing.
So. I hope so. Right now I'm a little scared because she just says she wants to be a mom. And so like, that's great. But
that means you're doing something right though, Mom.
I know, but I also, she's like wants to get married and things. And I'm like, she's 5. Okay. I'm like, okay, but you're gonna also have a career and like take care of yourself, right? Like you're not gonna be but there's nothing wrong with being a mom and staying home. But like,
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, but it's fun. Okay, so I wanted to touch on, because you kind of mentioned like just happiness and health, and I feel like our generation, your generation, I don't think we're in the same generation, but we're close.
close.
I think like with not changing the industry, but like helping the industry, one of my biggest focus, I think, this year, or figuring something out, is creating an environment or a way to like connect that health and like just your happiness and what we do as our careers. Because I don't think that it's normal in the auto industry, because we're just work and no time for our health and us. And I like want to talk about that. I don't know what I want to ask you, but like, do you have any thoughts? I don't know.
I mean, work-life balance in general, it's hard in this industry. You're right. And like, I mean, I'm so young too. And I mean, I feel like I'm just a baby in this industry still, but I already understand exactly what you're talking about. It sometimes feels like you can't come up for a breath, even though we're all working different roles and touching different facets of automotive. And no, I mean, it goes with any industry and any career, any occupation. It's just finding that balance. And I think the best way to put it, and I mean, I don't really have a direct answer for this question, but in my own personal life, I find that I can't operate successfully professionally if I'm not taking care of myself personally. And I think that's just the biggest thing. It's hard to kind of hang up the hat for a little bit and take a deep breath. But I mean, it goes back to sometimes you need to slow down to speed up. And finding that balance is really what's going to kind of catapult you miles ahead.
I agree. I agree. And I think having more conversations like this and talking about the fact that we do need to focus on ourselves and slow down. And, when you can focus on yourself, that's when you can do 10 times the amount of work. When you just go, and you're just like, I can't even stop. That's when you're like, the quality of what you're delivering is not good. And I'm like determined to create, I don't know what it's going to be, but I don't know. Because I don't want to create like a conference. I don't want to create like I guess you could call it a retreat, but I want it to be something. Because when I moved out to Arizona, I was on this huge like, meditating and like really like focusing on myself, because like I had lost people to death. And I think when you lose people, it really allows you to kind of look at your health and what you're doing, and it starts questioning like, we don't have tomorrow, like we have right now.
No, nothing's promised.
Yeah, and it's like,
it's life in a perspective.
We work our asses off and we don't have that connection with ourselves. And it's like, so I'm figuring it out, and I'm talking about it with you because it's something I started talking about like after NADA, I'm like, there's so many amazing people I'm around. I want to create a space because I live close to Sedona where that is the place to go to like, heal and
Yeah, I'll join your
help.
retreat anytime. I will fly down to Sedona from chilly Minnesota. Count me in.
Okay, I'm gonna figure it out. I want to create a way for us to come together and we grow in our business, but also more focused on ourselves. So it's like almost like a holistic business style like thing, because
Yes.
I talk about this all the time. Work-life balance, doing all these things. Well, when do we take the time to do that?
Yes, exactly. And people are the horsepower in this industry. So I mean, yeah, you got to take care of them.
Exactly. We
All
got to
together.
take care of ourselves, and yeah. So I'm excited.
I love it.
I'm glad we brought that up. It kind of naturally happened because it is a big deal to, slow down, take care of yourself and your business, and then anything you're doing is gonna go that much faster. So
Absolutely.
I'm surprised you have not wiped your nose this whole time. I'm like over here. We're both healing from NADA.
Yes.
Go. Right.
Dude, what a bummer. What a bummer.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, as we wrap that up, let's talk about the bummer of, you missing it. I mean, some of you guys ended up going, but, that was some of the things that was talked about at NADA of the people that, you put all this work in. So how are you guys, luckily a few of you guys made it, but how are you guys, I don't want to say recovering, but
Yeah.
what are you doing to like recoup or, make up for kind of that weirdness that I don't even know what to call it. That's my question.
You know, luckily for us, we're so used to just adapting day to day just because a lot of our company is out of state. And so it's a lot of virtual connections, hybrid kind of model and stuff like that. And so it was obviously a huge bummer. I remember my flight got canceled. I rebooked, canceled again. Like you just couldn't win. But that's the curveball Mother Nature threw at us. And, we just made do with the fact that we had 3 people who were able to still get down there and they had one hell of a show and made the most of it, as I think everyone kind of did, which, I mean, it just showed the resilience of the industry as a whole. People were carpooling together. I remember seeing it on LinkedIn all the time. Like, if anyone's stuck in Atlanta, can I hitch a ride? And people were more than willing to extend a hand there. And so I think Dealer Teamwork, at least, we were able to operate with that hybrid model. And, took demos virtually with Sean and Eric on Google Meet and whatnot. And the show went on.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. How everyone was adapting and also understanding. And we were all just making the best of it. And I think it was a really, I want to say, historic kind of show and different. And I just loved it. I just love that everyone just did the road trips, and I was fortunate enough to make it. But I think everyone had a great show, even though it was a weird one.
I agree.
Well, thank you, Olivia, for coming on. I had a great time talking to you. If anyone wants to find you, what is the best way to find you?
So LinkedIn, probably, Olivia Stapleton, and Next Gear Automotive is also featured on there. Obviously, you can go to Dealer Teamwork's website and see us all on there as well. So yeah, no, we've got a lot of exciting things, a lot of new products rolling out, and just a lot of exciting things to come. So Kaylee, I appreciate you. It's always so fun talking to you, and you're a prime example of just connections in this industry that kind of extend beyond the workplace walls, because you're so great. And yeah, just honored to talk to you.
Yeah, I love talking to you too. I'm glad that we connected, and I think it was all through kind of like LinkedIn and mutual connections, and that's just the beauty of it all. And we will have the links in the show notes, so if you want to find her, it's easy. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining me on the Trailblaze Your Path podcast. I hope you're leaving us inspired. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It really helps. Follow me on social media, check out our YouTube channel for more content, and remember, new episodes drop every other Friday. Keep blazing your own trail, and I'll catch up with you next time.